You paid extra for premium ice cream, and the brand you've been trusting for years is doing something you'd never expect if you actually read the label. We're not talking about store-brand bargain tubs. We're talking about the names with the fancy packaging, the ones sitting in that special freezer section, the ones that charge $8, $10, sometimes $12 a pint and convince you it's worth it because they use words like artisan and natural and crafted. What most people don't realize is that premium in the ice cream world is almost entirely a marketing invention. The ingredient list tells a completely different story. One involving a rotating cast of additives, gums, synthetic emulsifiers, and flavor compounds that would shock you if you saw them printed on the front of the carton where they actually belong. Today I'm going through 12 brands you should seriously reconsider buying, and then I'm going to show you 4 that are genuinely doing things right. Some of these are going to be uncomfortable because they're brands you probably have in your freezer right now. Let's get into it. Ice cream should be one of the simplest foods on earth. Cream, eggs, sugar, maybe some vanilla. But walk down any freezer aisle today and you'll find ingredient lists that read more like a chemistry syllabus than a recipe. The traditional standard for real ice cream requires a minimum percentage of actual milk fat and real dairy ingredients. What companies found out, though, is that if they engineer the texture through additives and cut back on the expensive stuff, they can manufacture something that tastes close enough to fool most people and charge premium prices while doing it. The red flags to watch for are carrageenan, which some researchers have linked to digestive inflammation, polysorbate 80, carabine gum, cellulose gel, artificial flavors listed without C, Pacifics, and high fructose corn syrup hiding under alternate names. And perhaps the biggest trick of all, products labeled frozen dairy dessert instead of ice cream, which means they legally don't have to meet ice cream standards at all. Here's what you need to know about each brand on this list. Häagen-Dazs built its entire identity on the idea of simplicity. 5 ingredients, nothing fake, old-world European heritage. The irony is that Häagen-Dazs is an American brand with a made-up name. More importantly, while their classic vanilla still holds up reasonably well, much of their extended line, the flavored varieties, the bars, the specialty items, contains carrageenan, carabine gum, and natural flavor compounds that aren't nearly as transparent as their marketing suggests. If you're buying the plain vanilla, you're in better shape. The moment you venture into their other products, the simple ingredients promise starts to quietly disappear. Ben & Jerry's carries enormous cultural goodwill, and their commitment to fair trade and social causes is real. But goodwill doesn't fix an ingredient list. Many of their flavors contain carrageenan, multiple added gums, and a long roster of natural flavors, a term that can legally cover hundreds of chemically derived compounds as long as they originate from a natural source at some point in their production. They also use alkalized cocoa in several chocolate varieties, which strips the cocoa of many of its beneficial compounds. The activism is genuine. The ingredient sourcing is a different conversation. Talenti built its identity as an artisanal Italian gelato brand. General Mills acquired it in 2014, and the formulations have evolved since then. A number of Talenti products now contain carrageenan and polysorbate 80, an emulsifier that some animal studies have associated with disruption of gut microbiome composition. Their layered parfait products are particularly heavy on additives. The gelato in the glass jar looks premium. The ingredient label sometimes tells a different story. Breyers is where things get genuinely strange. Check your Breyers container right now. Not just the flavor name on the front, but the small print underneath. Many Breyers products don't actually say ice cream. They say frozen dairy dessert. That means Breyers has reformulated those products to no longer meet the legal definition of ice cream, allowing them to use vegetable oils, more gums, and significantly less actual dairy. It's one of the most brazen labeling tricks in the entire frozen food industry. If you're currently buying Breyers thinking you're buying ice cream, you need to verify that label immediately. Dreyer's and its counterpart Edy's, same company, different regional names owned by Nestlé, market heavily to families and rely on volume pricing. That volume strategy shows in the ingredient lists. Carrageenan, carabine gum, mono and diglycerides, and artificial flavors are common across their product lines. Their slow churned light versions often compensate for reduced fat with additional emulsifiers and stabilizers to maintain texture. The price point feels reasonable. The trade-off is what's holding that texture together. Bluebell carries intense regional loyalty, particularly across the South and Midwest. The brand has faced serious food safety scrutiny in recent years following contamination events that led to recalls and a temporary plant shutdown. Beyond those documented issues, their standard formulations include carrageenan and a range of added gums across most flavors. Brand loyalty is powerful, but it's worth taking a clear-eyed look at what you're actually buying. Turkey Hill has a folksy small farm image that doesn't quite match its current reality as a Kroger-owned national brand. Their ingredient lists are some of the most additive-heavy in the category: carrageenan, polysorbate 80, cellulose gel, carob bean gum, and mono and diglycerides appear regularly. Their all-natural line is cleaner, but harder to find and priced differently. The standard line is what fills most freezer cases, and the standard line is where the problems live. I know this list is getting long, and I know some of these are brands you genuinely love, brands tied to memories and traditions and Sunday evenings and summer. That's actually part of why this information matters. These companies understand that emotional connection, and some of them are banking on it while quietly changing what's inside the carton. Friendly's occupies that nostalgic family restaurant space in many people's minds. Their grocery store ice cream line is a different product than that nostalgia might suggest. Carrageenan, high-fructose corn syrup, and artificial colors appear across numerous flavors. Their products consistently rank toward the bottom in independent ingredient transparency analyses. The name carries warmth. The label is worth a closer look. Halo Top became a phenomenon by positioning itself as the guilt-free diet ice cream. High protein, low calorie, perfectly portioned. But the way they achieve that macronutrient profile involves erythritol and other sugar alcohols in quantities that many people find cause significant digestive discomfort. They also use carrageenan, cellulose gel, and vegetable glycerin. The calorie count is genuinely lower. The ingredient load to achieve that is genuinely higher. Whether that trade-off works for your body is something worth thinking carefully about. Enlightened is another low-calorie brand operating in the same space as Halo Top, with a similar playbook. Fiber, protein, sugar alcohols, additives to compensate for what's been removed. Chicory root fiber in larger quantities is associated with digestive sensitivity in some people. The Enlightened branding implies health clarity, but the ingredient list requires the same scrutiny as anything else in this category. Klondike sits at the very end of this list but earns its place easily. Their bars are built on a foundation of corn syrup, hydrogenated pals, kernel oil, artificial flavors, and a long additives list that exists primarily to keep costs low and shelf stability high. The chocolate coating on a Klondike bar contains almost no real chocolate by proportion. It's highly processed, heavily engineered, and built for margin, not for quality. Now here's where things actually get good, because a handful of brands out there are doing this completely right. Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams out of Columbus, Ohio operates with a commitment to ingredient transparency that's genuinely unusual in this category. They use grass-grazed milk, real cream cheese as their base stabilizer instead of synthetic additives, and name every ingredient clearly and specifically. Their flavor list is creative without being gimmicky. Jenny's costs more, and it's worth understanding why. The base ingredients are simply better. Salt Straw, based in Portland, sources locally and seasonally, and publishes their sourcing relationships publicly. Their ingredient lists are short, recognizable, and honest. They use real inclusions, actual fruit, actual nuts, actual chocolate, rather than flavoring compounds. You can find them in their own scoop shops and increasingly in specialty grocery retailers. If you have access to Salt Straw, use it. Strauss Family Creamery produces an organic ice cream made with certified organic dairy from their own family farm. Their ingredient lists are among the shortest in the category. No carrageenan, no gums, no emulsifiers, real cream, real eggs, real cane sugar, real flavors. It reads like what ice cream actually used to be before the industry decided that chemistry could substitute for quality ingredients. Three Twins, certified organic and committed to non-GMO sourcing, has been consistent in keeping their formulations clean across their product line. Their vanilla is made with real vanilla extract and actual vanilla beans. Their ingredient panels are short and readable. They're available in natural grocery chains and increasingly in mainstream retailers. Three Twins is the answer to the question of what you reach for when you want something you can feel good about. Here's the bottom line. The freezer aisle has never been more deceptive, but it's also never been easier to make a smarter choice once you know what to look for. The brands on the avoid list aren't selling you something dangerous in the dramatic sense, but many of them are selling you something significantly less than what they're charging you for, built on additives and label tricks that benefit their margins, not your family. The fix is actually simple. Flip the carton, read the back, look for short ingredient lists with words you recognize. If you see carrageenan, polysorbate 80, multiple gums, or the words frozen dairy dessert, where ice cream should be, Put it back. If this video helped you see something you hadn't noticed before, drop a comment with the brand you're switching away from. Share this with someone who buys ice cream for their kids every week. They'll want to know this. And subscribe if you want to keep getting this kind of label breakdown across every food category that matters. You came here for information and you're leaving with something genuinely useful. That's always the goal.